Welcome everyone to the greatest presentation you will ever see at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday in this room. Next year we're going to Seattle. I wholly encourage all of you to come out. Summer is the best week and a half of the year in Seattle, and hopefully we coincide with it. Otherwise it's going to be rainy, but last year we made that week and a half. Make sure at the end of the session, oh, now the people are arriving. Oh no, we'll wait, it's cool. As you're coming in, make sure you grab an eval, make sure you fill it out during the session. In case we run out of time before the end of this, I want to make sure you all know this now. There is an awesome hands-on lab where you'll actually get to experience OAC, play around with EssCS in the cloud. That's today at 2:30. So ditch whoever's presentation you were going to go to then, make sure you show up at that one. So Glenn and I have been talking about Oracle Analytics Cloud, and specifically EssCS in the cloud, for more than a year. I think we gave our first session on it 2016, talking about what we felt was coming when EssCS eventually made its move up to the cloud. What we're really wondering about now is how has it changed over the last year? Is it ready for worldwide adoption? I would love to give you, what?
Domination.
Domination, even better than adoption. Excellent. By the way, this is Glenn's primary presentation, but I'm making him sit to start. Trust me, you'll thank me later. So I was going to stand up here and give you like a 10-minute long commercial, but I really want to make a great session full of content, so I'm going to skip it. If you're curious about Interel, stop downstairs. That is the shortest commercial you will hear at any session at this conference. So OAC came out on St. Patrick's Day, 2017. I remember it well. This is not a joke. I was actually in Dublin at the St. Patrick's Day parade when the announcement came out that it has indeed been released. So when we were talking about this last year, OAC was really only 3 months out, and a lot of things were rapidly changing. Because when they released the product, they weren't sure what people would want out of it. They weren't sure how people were going to use it. They weren't sure what the adoption rate would be like. It was more one of those things that if we had the opportunity to create EssCS in 2017, what would that look like? Would it be something that was completely software as a service, where we run everything for someone? Would it just be the next version of EssCS up in the cloud? Would it be something revolutionary, full of artificial intelligence? Would it be putting away some of those old interface technologies we haven't used for a while and going with brand new interfaces? So when we released it last year, we were talking about a lot of things that frankly we had in common between the on-prem version and the cloud version. And there were a lot of things that were the same. For instance, we still had block storage, we still had aggregate storage. Even though the default was hybrid, and hybrid was more powerful in EssCS Cloud, we still had the ability to take our BSO cubes and our ASO cubes and move them up. But in other cases, the developer said, if we built EssCS in 2017, would we have people write data load rules? Would we have them make dimension build rules? Or is that kind of the thing that we can sort of do for you? Can we look at, for instance, an Excel spreadsheet and say, by looking at the text columns, figuring out what repeats, we can kind of figure out your dimensionality. And if we then look over at the columns of numbers and are smart enough to read the headers, could we figure out that those are probably the data columns and we should load those? So it started off with really not much of an editor in data load rules and dimension build rules, because it was trying to do a whole lot more for you. Unlike Unicode being an afterthought with the on-prem version, they said we're going to make that the default, so we're not stuck with tiny little 8-bit character names. We're going to have the ability to do much more maintenance from Excel. So from the Cube Designer, from inside of Excel, we can maintain dimensions. We can load data. We can look at jobs. We can kick off calculations. Substitution variables were still supported, but no longer at the server level. So primarily app and database, so that they would be specific to the individual application. Partitioning was fairly limited at the time, knowing that it was going to come later on. But for the most part, EssCS on-prem and EssCS Cloud really was just version 11 for the on-prem, version 12. But there were a lot of things that were different. The number one thing that threw everyone was we got used to EAS. Now, it wasn't that any of us loved it. It frankly still had a lot of holdovers from Application Manager dating back to the mid-1990s. It eventually became a Java-based interface with EssCS Administration Services. But the thing about it was us long-term EssCS admins knew where to go. We knew what to click on and how to find things. So even though a brand new admin who had never used EssCS Cloud before would much faster take to the web interface, it was a little harder for us people who had to traditionally administer.
Edward, can I interrupt for a second?
He would like to interrupt.
Lots of you are taking pictures of this slide. Remember, this is what it was a year ago. This is not what it is today.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're looking at this saying, oh, here are the differences, that's not what it is today.
Oh yeah, this is an excellent point. Please do not post and say that Glenn and Edward told you these were the current differences. This is what we told you last year. Sorry, excellent introduction. Thank you. Interruption. So we had a lot of reporting interfaces that we could do, but predominantly we were using BIX or DVCS. We were using SmartView to pull a lot of the information out. And there were some limitations. For instance, we talked about how we couldn't do SQL load rules. We were predominantly using S-based command line interface with not a great scheduler. We didn't have the awesome calc script editor that we had back in EAS. There was no user interface. To edit a data load rule or dimension build rule, you're predominantly fiddling around with text. You couldn't run report scripts. There was no easy way to set up the partitions. And now would be a good time to take a picture because at the very bottom it says, is this still true? So let's go ahead and find out. Let's figure out what this new world actually looks like. So now it's time for all of our enhancements to start. So over the course of the year, we saw Essbase on the cloud evolve faster than we've ever seen any product evolve in the history of Oracle. All the changes that they have put in the last year, it has been, suffice to say, a remarkably wild ride. It starts off as a fairly pleasant, hey, let's go on a boat and see what that looks like. I need to turn on volume?
Yeah, I forgot.
Okay. He really wants us to hear the Willy Wonka song while I talk. It's terribly important to this video. Oh, you'll have to imagine. Just sing the song along in your head.
Why is the volume not
I don't know.
well,
It's all good.
Then pass it.
Yeah. So notice it starts off as a fairly pleasant boat ride, and then Glenn Schwartzberg comes along and interrupts and says, no, wait, we have all this massive change that's going to happen. And notice we have, I don't know if this is Gabby or Kumar, but they're looking kind of evil at the front of all this, going, oh, it's going to be fun. So over the last year, the nice thing about the cloud is we're able to iterate far faster versions, far faster features, far faster patch upgrades than we ever could on-prem because development doesn't have to regression test this on 8,000 versions of commodity hardware. Every time they want to try something new, they can issue a new patch that comes out, they can add a new feature, they can change the interface because they know it's a common set of hardware on the back end. So we saw more change in the last year in the S-based cloud world than we saw in roughly the prior 5 years, almost 10, really since Studio came out. So the question really is, how is this ride going to end? Are we going to turn violet? Are we going to get sucked up into a tube? Or are we going to hit a wonderful nirvana world where we have S-based perfection, and to Glenn's point earlier, we achieve a path of world domination. One of the first areas that they started with was, how can we improve that cube designer? How is that interface going to look for actually being able to maintain and support the cubes? And with that, I will turn it over to my good friend and arch nemesis, Glenn Schwartzberg. Round of applause for Glenn, he needs it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Edward's saying fill out your evaluations. Now here's the deal. Edward and I have 3 sessions together today, and we always want to be the better speaker. I'm the primary speaker on this one, so if you vote really high on this one, I get to beat Edward. And if you put in great comments like Edward sucked and Glenn was fantastic, that's even better. So I have about 80 slides to go through, and it's going to take me about 2 minutes.
He's not kidding.
And I'm not kidding. And the reason is we put all of these slides in here for you to use as reference later. I am going to be very brave and bold and actually bring up our OAC instance and show you most of what I want to talk about. So, as I say, there's tons of stuff that they've done with Cube Designer, with keep going, keep going, keep going.
Oh, that last slide was awesome. You didn't see it, but
Yeah.
oh my God, it was beautiful.
Yeah, with calculations, with tracing, transparent partitions.
I don't know if you caught hybrid. That one was really cool.
Yeah. Dimensions, data sync.
Yeah.
So the
Data
one,
sync's the best.
So the
Oh, it's
the
gone
one
now.
thing I will talk about, I will stop here for a second and talk about it because I don't demo this, is one of the things that came out is data sync. It's another way of getting data into the cube. It's the same way they're using it for Oracle Analytics Cloud BI, but it is a new way to be able to sync up your data from relational. There's lots of ways to be able to get data into a cube now. Drill through, I actually will be demoing it. So you have the slides for reference. See, I told you it's going to take me 2 minutes. The new EssCS command line interface, which is a way to be able to, it's like a Maxell replacement. It's wrapped around a REST API, so you can put this on-prem and control your cubes, as well as use Maxell now because they made it secure. Other things that's happened, scenario management, export, audit trail. We're going to be talking about a lot of this stuff, but I want to actually show it to you.
So while Glenn is advancing, I want you to appreciate this is what our life was like for the last year. Every time we turned around, something new actually showed up. So we've been documenting all of this so that you will actually be able to see those beautiful slides. Trust me, I spent a while reformatting them. I really want you to look at the online download and see what they all are. But it's hard for you to memorize a demo. So the demo will make it feel real for all of you, and then you take back the other slides and share them with the other people at your company and go, everything you know about EssCS Cloud is wrong because I learned all this from Glenn and Edward's presentation.
That's right. And Kumar's going to learn it all today, too. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Kumar's like, I had no idea that was in the product.
Yeah. Kumar is the product manager for EssCS, and he's here to keep us honest, I think. I'm not quite sure. I've been working with Kumar for about 3 years now on the product, so. But some of so Identity Management Cloud Service came into the product around December, but it really didn't get into the product until a couple of months ago when Universal Credits really came out and were working. Edward will talk at the end about what Universal Credits are and the new pricing scheme for EssCS. And the latest thing that came out around the March timeframe was the autonomous install. So we were complaining for about a year that, that when people were sold EssCS, they said, oh yeah, this is a cloud product. And everybody was used to EPM cloud products where everything was done for you. And when we told people that you had to, you had to create the database, you had to create the storage, you had to create the backup, you had to do your own patching and do all the installs, people were going, what? This is a cloud product. So they've come out with the autonomous install now. So basically it is I'm going to, for lack of a better term, call it a hybrid between software as a service and platform as a service. So Oracle will do all of the stuff for you at actually a really good price. Edward will get into that later. And the biggest thing that came out of the last year, I shouldn't say the biggest because there's a lot of things that came out, was they completely redesigned the interface. And I thought I was going to have to show slides of this because it hadn't been released yet, and it got released like a week or two ago. So now I can actually demo it for you all. But they're calling it the JET interface, and I think that they call it, and Kumar will correct me, is because the technology that they're using is called JET. And that's actually how you get into the product. So I'm actually going to leave my PowerPoint, and I'm going to go and I'm going to duplicate and I'm going to go into OAC, if my cursor wants to come up. So this is what, if you've looked at OAC, this is what it looked like up until a couple months ago. You have the your applications in here, and depending on where you click, I can get in here to a database, and then I can come in here and have a really ugly outline editor, if it wants to come up.
An ugly and slow outline editor?
Yeah, apparently so. So I couldn't really do a lot with this outline editor. I couldn't drag and drop, I couldn't cut and paste, I couldn't move things around, and I really only got one level at a time, so it was really ugly looking. To do other things, I had to go to different tiles. But if I come over here now, and you can all do this if you have an OAC instance, and you get rid of all of this junk, and you get to where it says UI, and you change it to JET. If you did this on older versions, you could still get here, and people didn't know about it, but it would say beta. Now it doesn't say beta anymore. So if we get here, so this is what it looks like now. This is as of today. So you notice that I have my applications listed here. I still have my tiles across the top to do different things. But now I get to do even more stuff. So if I look in here, okay, well, I'm at application level. I'm going to get to database level. Now I can come in here and I can edit the outline, and it brings it up in a separate tab. And now what I get is I get a nice, pretty hierarchical view of my outline. If it's a really big outline, it will only bring in a certain number of members and say you can get more members and page through to get it. I have good search capabilities in here. If I edit it, what I get is I can go in and I can inspect any item, or if you'll notice off on this side, I get all my properties. So it's even nicer than EAS in that effect, in that I can actually see what all the properties are for a member and change them right there, as opposed to clicking on the member saying go into properties, make my changes, and do all that. When we first started off with OAC, our formula editor was a text editor that had nothing in it. Now what we get is we get a fully functional formula editor. Now I will warn you, this is for formulas right now. The editor for calc scripts still is a text editor. They're telling me in the next release that it's going to be looking just like this or similar to this. So it's not there yet, but where you had to be an expert in calc scripting and know what every function was and what the members of your outline were, that's going away, and you'll easily be able to edit like you can today in EAS. So the formula editor looks a lot better now. We can get all of our properties, whether we want to store. Now, when you're going from on-prem to hybrid, you can easily migrate your cubes up. You export them out using the LCM utility that's included with OAC, and then you use SCLI to import them. You can bring an outline in a few minutes, depending on whether or not you do it with or without data. But when you bring it in, you might want to take the advantage of the fact that hybrid is fully functional in OAC. So you might want to change your cubes to be hybrid. But that means that, well, like for every one of my dimensions, I have to go in and I have to change all of the upper levels to dynamic. And this is a really bad outline to do it in. So let me go to my favorite sample basic. It's still not a great outline. But what you can do now, and this is new to me in this release, have to make sure I edit it. So if I go into market, and I think this one is already set, I'm going to set it back. Right now, you'll notice that all of these things are at store data. Well, if I want to change the whole hierarchy to be dynamic so it enables it for hybrid, all I have to do is come in here and set to dynamic. If I just wanted to do east, I can do that. So I can either do the branch, or I can just do the second generation, or to the first level. So it gives me options on how I want to set my dynamic calculation. So I'm just going to set everything back to dynamic. And it's really fast to do it. It was actually faster than I thought it would be. Now there are some, I will tell you, there are some things that are still not in this outline editor, and like copy and paste to create shared member roll-ups and a few other things. I've been talking with Kumar, and they're working on adding that. When it will come in, I don't know. But it's not 100% of all the things that you could do in EAS, but it's getting close. And it's getting closer every day. And if there's something that you say, well, I really need to be able to do this, email me and I'll get in touch with Kumar and say, hey, I've got clients who want to do this. And so I talk to Kumar, weekly, every other week? He's tired of listening to me. Trust me. Okay, so if I'm smart, I unlock this one like I didn't on the other one, and I close it down. So that was just editing the outline, and that took me a few minutes to talk about. But what about other things? So if I come in here and I inspect the outline, this is where you get into all of the stuff about this outline. So you have the general tab that gives you information about it. You have the dimension tab that shows you by dimension things like what the generations are. I would actually like it to show me the number of members in here and the like, but oh well. You can see all of the files in the directory structure, and they've completely changed the directory structure from the old interface. Now that you have shared folders, you have gallery folders, and I'll show you that in just a minute. All of the different kinds of scripts are kept under scripts. So I have calculation scripts, I have drill-through reports, I have Maxell scripts, I have MDX scripts. That one's interesting. I've never seen that one before. I have report scripts. If you'll notice a year ago, what we were saying the limitation was is report scripts weren't there and weren't going to be supported except to run through Maxell. Well, Kumar conceded and said, okay, yeah, we'll put report scripts in here. So a little bit of fighting, and we got what we want. Filters, variables. Originally, global variables were not supported, as you saw in the differences. They're being supported now. I actually got that surprise when I imported an application from EPBCS and saw global variables, and I emailed Kumar and said, I thought you weren't supporting these. He said, yeah, we are now. So you get your locks, you get the different settings. So things like, all of the things that you could do in EAS don't go away. I actually do get better.
Don't believe a word he says.
Yeah, don't believe it, yeah. So if you've got audit trailing, you have the audit trail. If you're doing partitions, you have all of the partitions. If you're doing location aliases within the same server, there's easier ways to do location aliases. If you're going across servers, you set this all up in here. So there's lots of good stuff. Oh, and I want to actually go back to scripts for a second. Remember how I told you that, or Edward told you, I guess we're one and the same, aren't we?
Yeah, as far as the eval goes.
Yeah, we're one and the same in the eval. That report scripts were Jython scripts. So you really had to be a programmer in order to know that. So if I look at a rules file now, if I looked at a rules file a couple months ago, I didn't get any information about the data itself. Now I can say, well, I actually want to see the data in the cube, and I'm going to go ahead and pick the file I want to do. I can do this from the server, whoops, wrong one. Or I can do it from relational. Kumar, it would be really nice when you're in an application that it actually goes straight to the application.
He'll probably have it in a day.
Yeah. So I picked the file that I wanted, and this is looking even a lot different than it did a couple months ago, because now what I have is I have the dimensions down here, and I love the fact that I've got the Japanese names in here, because I can read that so well. But now, in order to edit this, it's simple drop-down lists. And then I have the properties. If I wanted to deal with this one, I can come in here to the properties here and do the editing and filtering here. So it's a very clean-looking interface. I actually find this to be easier to look at than the old load rule editor, because it visually matches up better. And I don't have to go in and say, okay, go to the field properties and change this and change this. I get it all right here. So huge, huge improvement in this. And this is, again, recent, because the prior version of this was really clunky. So kudos to Kumar and team for doing all of this. And again, we have our relational data sources that we can connect to. And your question? Do we have the option? Everything that you could do in the old load rules editor, you can do in here. So you can merge, you can split, you can merge join, you can add text, all of that stuff. And this is even going to get better. The question was, can you take your on-prem data load rules and load them in? And the answer is yes. And it will come up in this format. These are really just load rules. It's just the way that they're presenting them is changed. So remember I said if you want to move your on-prem, you can just do an LCM export. The LCM export is going to get your rules, it's going to get your substitution variables, it's going to get a whole bunch of stuff, and it's going to load them up. And optionally even data. So, and calc scripts and all of that stuff. So you get all of it, you know, very, very quick and easy. That's where I'm plugged in. Let's see what I want to talk about next.
Do you want to explain the audit trail, just where you were back there on the last setting? Just explain kind of what it is, how it's changed.
No.
Okay.
That's for our next session. No,
Oh.
no. So audit trailing, they do have the ability to turn on audit trailing so you can see what changes have been made by whom. We actually don't have anything in the audit trail right now. We don't have it turned on, but you can turn it on and you can get reporting. They also have in the UI different statistics that you can get, kind of dashboards that show how the performance of your different cubes are running, that kind of thing. I'm not going to spend the time to pull that one up now because I've got so little on this server, it really doesn't show anything.
Yeah, if I could advocate for the audit trail, it not only shows kind of who changed it, it shows what the old value was, what the new value was, the date and time the person updated it. It tracks notes, files, URLs that you've connected to. Really, it brings a level of Sarbanes-Oxley auditing compliance to Essbase that really wasn't there before. So if you are like loading data directly to it or allowing people to change, you previously, it would keep track of it in a very clunky little, this is the new value trail, but it's in a much easier to see interface now. You can pull it up directly through the Jet engine. So it makes it much easier to audit, kind of see who is editing, who is changing, and kind of all the interaction activities they're doing.
Okay. Thank you. So the question was, if I can paraphrase much shorter, what about statistics about the last time it was loaded, who did it, that kind of thing? The who did it and everything is in the audit trail. The statistics on the last loads and the like were actually when I went into the inspect, there was a statistics tab that had all of that information about when it was loaded, how long it's been up, you know, the last time the outline was changed, all that kind of stuff. Kumar? Oh, and yeah, okay. And in jobs, you also get the history of what different things have been run. So like if I ran a calculation, it shows who, calculation, I can actually go in and look at the information about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Run calculation, run MDX, import Excel. Right, so if you look down here, build dimension, build aggregations, clear data, clear aggregation, export, import LCM, load data, run MDX, run calculation. So all of these things you can do directly. So the question was, if you just have PBCS, do I really need this product? And the answer I'll give is, it depends, the famous one. So for example, I have a client right now that has PBCS, but they want to have like 10 years of history of actuals. And we really don't want that in planning. They want to have their actuals down to a greater level of detail. So they're bringing that in, we're bringing in the ePBCS data into here and doing additional analysis on it. We're adding feature functionality to it. The other thing is that if you wanted to use this with BI, is there anyone from the EPM group in the room? Good.
Cool, say whatever you want.
So the interface from ePBCS to OAC BI, I'm going to give you a technical term. It sucks. It's very non-performant, and it's very limiting because in PBCS, you don't get the data up to the very top of any dimension. So you always have to select something down below, and that drives me nuts. Well, I can make modifications in my OAC and Essbase instance to get it to the very top. And I can make additional changes that make BI run faster. So if I'm going to be using BI tools, I want to bring it into Essbase. If I want to do additional deeper analysis or have a lot more data, I want to bring it into Essbase.
Yeah. Okay, wait, let me try this one. No. This is a fun tangent, but I've been asked it 75 times, so I'm just going to state my opinion publicly. So PBCS, planning and budgeting, it is optimized for one thing, getting a number in. Essbase is optimized for one thing, getting a number back out. You don't want to cross the two. Because if I take a planning application and I go, you know what, I'm going to pre-aggregate everything. I'm going to run all my calcs. I'm going to roll it up to the very, very top level. And I'm going to add 10 years of history and go down to my SKU level. You will have the world's slowest planning application. On the flip side, if I try and take an Essbase application and go, you know what, I'm going to custom code all kinds of like scenario planning and rolling forecasts and driver base and add that in, you're going to have the world's slowest reporting application. So think of them as two different functions. Kind of like we consider consolidation and budgeting to be two different concepts, right? Consolidation, backward-looking actuals, governance and control. Planning, future-looking and flexible. That's really the difference between fundamentally why I would use each product. Now, there's a whole bunch of feature differences. Just about everything he's showing here you don't see in the PBCS world. But just if you could remember one sentence, PBCS is optimized for entering data. OAC is optimized for pulling out data.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep, and it seems like there's a big overlap as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. PBCS wraps around Essbase, but it's an Essbase optimized for input, right? So just think of it that way. And if you ever hear anybody go, oh, we should try and do both all in one place, that's kind of like saying, oh, well, sometimes I need a sports car and sometimes I need a minivan. So I'm going to get a minivan and put some turbochargers on it. It's a bad minivan. It's probably not safe, and it's a lousy sports car, right? Get two different things.
You're talking about my car.
Yeah, you have an awesome Swagger wagon.
Question. Right. Okay, so if you remember, the very first screen that I got was asking me about my data source. So I could do relational or I could do file-based. I chose file-based because it was easier for me. I don't have the connections set up. But I could easily have said I want this SQL source that's been set up and pull in. And I'll show you connections in a few minutes. Yeah, it's still ODBC. It's still a connection. So you have to make sure that you have a connection to something you can connect to. So it's got to be, VPN or tunnel, or it's got to be open to be able to get the data. And I know that they've made a lot of changes, and I don't have the answer to this one, especially with the new version on if VPN is automatically included in autonomous. And
Yes, the VPN setup, the bandwidth of the pipe, there are solutions like VPN Fast9. I mean, I've got many like setup. On the infrastructure side, it's the availability of language ready. There's some companies, both on the Oracle side and also on their company. It may take a while to get it set up, but it is technically doable.
So that's what the exercise we are doing in the summer, like more just than
yeah, you can take this one off with Kumar
Yeah,
offline.
fundamentally, the summary answer to that is now you can connect to relational sources, and there are several different ways you can do it. The only real question is just, do you have the opening, right? Do you have the cloud access to get through? And there are a ton of different ways to set it up to make that happen. You just have to make sure, if your firewall is totally locked down, you don't have anything data sync related on your server, there's no getting through it. That's by design, right? I mean, security-wise, you don't want the cloud to be able to wander into your applications. Once you open up that very narrow pipe that's specifically for OAC, then you can do your relational sources just actually easier, because the rules are easier than they were under the old data loads with SQL interface.
Okay, so
Back to you.
thank you, because we're running out of time.
I know.
So one of the other cool features that they brought in is Analyze. This is not a Smart View replacement, and it's being really slow on this wireless network right now. But what you can do is you don't have to get out of the product and able to see the data. You've just loaded data, you want to be able to see it. So I can come in here, I can zoom in, I can pivot, I can do all of the things, the things, even submit data or execute MDX statements. And this actually is pretty quick. I would actually like to have different zoom levels in here instead of just next level, Kumar. See, when Kumar's in the room, I can just ask for stuff. But
Yeah,
it's
Kumar's
really,
never going to come in the room again when you're presenting.
Why do you think I'm saying this?
Yeah.
No. But you can see, very quickly I was able to create this report just to be able to see the data. It's not, like I say, it's not meant to be a Smart View replacement, but it is a way for you to be able to get the data very quickly while you're designing, while you're doing stuff, and able to be able to see it all. So the question is can you export this to Excel for analysis? And I don't believe the answer, I believe the answer is no for right now. Kumar's taking notes, so in the month or two it might be yes. What's that? Oh, I didn't see you back there, Victor.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the answer is soon. Victor is one of the chief architects of EssSpace, so he's taking notes too.
Yeah.
So one of the other cool features that I wanted to talk about, I'm an old EssSpace Studio guy.
Very old.
Very old. What can I say? And I talked with development a lot about drill through and all of the limitations that were in Studio in doing drill through. And they've come up with a whole new concept of connections and data sources and drill reports that really is good. Now, connections is more than just for drill through. Kumar in his presentation the other day talked about the fact that you could have a relational database that has data in it, and you can bring it into an EssSpace cube and actually never have data in the Essbase cube. Or you can use it for things like if you had prices for products that are always constantly changing. You can go to your relational table, pull those into Essbase, multiply it by the quantities to get the total price, and never have to worry about it. The currency rates that keep changing, you could have in a relational table or in a spreadsheet and be able to use those in your Essbase cube. So really cool. Connections becomes extremely powerful. And I'm going to show you two things that you can do with it. So the first thing that you have to do is you actually have to create a connection. And you get, if it's an Oracle database, Essbase file, Oracle BI, or JDBC. So they'll accept any JDBC compliant database. You do have to set it up. There is a screen in console for setting up your JDBC connections. So basically what I did is I just went to a flat file in this case for this one, and then you set up your data source, and I aptly named it Kscope. And what you do is in this case it's an Excel spreadsheet. So I get my general, I get my columns, which I've set all of the numerics to be doubles. And then I just went ahead and previewed it, and then I created it. I saved it. Once I did that, I could come back here to the applications, and I'm not doing it live only because of time constraints. It's kind of live. Come here to inspect, go to the scripts. We had drill through reports. I've got 2 different drill through reports created. This is one of the other things that bugs me, Kumar, is here I have to click here to do it. If I click over here to try and edit, I can't do it. So when you do this, and here's one of the things that you couldn't do in Studio. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So what you do is you choose which columns that you want to bring into the report. You match them to the dimension name and what level you want to bring back. And then you come in here to drillable regions. In Studio, it was just, well, I want generation 3 of scenario. I couldn't say I want actuals, and I want, for actuals I want it to be this. For budget I want it to be this. For these accounts I want to be able to do this. This gives me all of the flexibility in the world, because you'll notice I've got actuals doing one thing, I've got budget doing something else. We save it. We also have the ability to get all levels, where in Studio, if you try and go from the very top of the dimension, it can give you some issues. That's all gone now. So if this all works right, if I go over to Smart View, let's see if I'm still connected. It's been a while. I am. So if I come in here, notice it now Kumar likes to actually use cell styles and color them. The problem is I like to use Excel formatting and the like, but you can turn on the tooltips so it will tell you where there's a drill through report. If I drill through, it's going to go back to that source and give me back my data source as a separate column. And notice, this is a pretty good drill through. It only took a second. There are bigger ones that we could do, like if we go to the all level one. This will be a really small drill through. But I've done a drill through that brought me back, 20,000 rows, and it was very, very fast. So again, I'm doing this against a spreadsheet right now, but most of the time I would actually be doing relational databases, and I would have done that back in that Connections tab. So I'm going to close this again and just go back to Sources. So you saw, and I can even connect to Essbase now, which I could never do before. So I could have a drill through to another Essbase cube. So if I do Oracle BI, for example, it gives me all of the parameters I need for setting that one up, what my server is, so I connect. One of the other cool things,
If you have a Fusion ERP, you can set up a OTPI into Workday BI, and then from here you can set it to Workday BI, which is linked through to Fusion ERP from here.
okay, Jared, get out your camera now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you can also do with connections, because you're talking to relational databases, how many of you have hundreds of filters because you have lots of groups, you have lots of users doing lots of things? Well, instead of controlling filters the way that you did, manually creating them, building applications to do them, what you can do is you can put all of the user access into a database or into a spreadsheet even. And so using those connections, you can connect into that, that source and pull out the user information and dynamically create filters. So I'm not going to actually do it because I don't have all of the users set up, but here's an example of a spreadsheet that has a whole bunch of users and a whole bunch of what their access should be, what their cost center is, what company they're with, all of that kind of stuff. And what I can do is I can use a new function that's called data source lookup and give it the name of the connection. And in this case, I'm giving it, passing the username, getting the username column, the login, and I'm passing in what the login user is. So whoever is logged in, it's going to go get their credentials. So if I'm logged in as user 5, it's going to go in down and find user 5. And in this case, I'm bringing back country. So I can build this into a load rule and into a filter. So instead of having thousands of filters, Kumar gave I think it was 20,000 filters yesterday, that went down to 5. And in this case, in this example, I'm using the descendants of it. So I could say, well, they have access to the West region, and that way they get everything underneath of it. So it really simplifies the security.
What if the user, two questions. What does this do to the concept of groups? And what if the user needs to have both USA and France? Can we do it twice there?
So there were 2 questions there. What does this do to the concept of groups? And in this case, because you're passing the user, you would kind of not need groups. You can do everything on a user basis, and it's easy to clone users in here. Kumar's going to give me a different answer in a second. And
So, to your second point, you can have 2 rows, you can treat both the rows. If you have, and then the other one, right now we only support users, we're going to enhance it to support the groups also. One additional benefit of this is the source is up. Next time you log in, it immediately gets refreshed. So it's somewhat dynamic in the real time.
And we're running short on time, and I want to make sure that we cover the last part on pricing, so I'm going to turn it back over to my esteemed colleague. And if you have questions about this afterwards, I know that Victor, Kumar, and I will be up here, and Edward is just, eye candy for us all. But
I have another session to go to, so.
So do I.
I get to close with the best information possible, and if I manage to tell you how you can get OAC for under $5 a CPU per hour, I think I deserve 5 stars at the end of this eval.
I deserve 5 stars.
That's right, I actually don't get graded on this session. Say whatever you want, 1 star.
So wait a second. So this is what I have to say.
Oh, you're gonna strip just to get 5 stars? Wow, nice. That was a pity applause you just got there. Yeah, we are very proud of our Run OAC shirts that we're wearing. So when OAC launched a year ago, it was very, very much platform as a service. It was designed to give you total control, total power, and you could root access into the server and install whatever you wanted onto it. The thing about platform as a service is it's really good for mass usage because you're not charged per application, you're not even charged per user, you're really just charged on how many CPUs you're going to use and how much storage you need. And storage is cheap. Last time I checked, it was $30 a terabyte per month. So where you're really paying is on the CPU side. But if you have 10,000 users and you only want to buy 4 CPUs, you're allowed to do it. If all 10,000 log in at the same time, it's going to be remarkably slow, and you're going to probably want to bump that level up, but you can start very small and get in. But the products that align to the various different tiers have changed. When it launched 15 months ago, there really wasn't even a data lake edition. Essbase appeared at the standard edition, kind of an almost powerful version of Essbase. Some of the cool new 12c features came in at the enterprise edition, but then they added data lake, and they added things like the ability to do data flows over the last year. Well, without going into details, the bottom level, the standard level, really now is about data exploration, data visualization. So when you look over there, you get Smart View, you get Data Visualization Cloud, you also get unlimited copies of Data Visualization Desktop, so there's no longer ever a reason to pay for Tableau, because you can go get DB Desktop, install it on as many computers as you want out there. The next level up, the Data Lake Edition, comes with no longer a almost all-powerful version of Essbase, it comes with full-blown Essbase. So when you get the Data Lake Edition, you get that super duper powerful edition of Essbase, plus the ability to flow data back and forth between structured data, unstructured data, big data sources, and pull it all up into Oracle Analytics Cloud. What they add at the Enterprise Edition is really the BI products, BI Cloud, BI Publisher, and my favorite application that we're going to be demoing in the vendor session in a second, which is Day by Day, basically Siri for analytics. So each one of these editions builds on itself. So when you get the standard edition, it just comes with the data visualization exploration. Data Lake gets that, plus Essbase and data flows, and so on up to enterprise. Well, as I said at the very beginning, what they realized over the year was people, while they appreciated the control and the power, they actually wanted the server maintenance to be Oracle's problem, not theirs. As much as we can push off of our plate and get out of the data center management business and push it over to Oracle, so much the better. So you now hear about something called Oracle Autonomous Analytics Cloud. And a lot of people are calling it Autonomous OAC. Technically, I think the autonomous is in the middle. Just OAC is a hard acronym to put out there. But what I want to cover with you is how amazingly cheap this price has become over the last year. So if you'll notice, in March of 2017, the product launched with 2 editions. Standard, and it was $10 an hour, basically per CPU, and Enterprise was basically $20 an hour. Advance, 14 months. Now keep in mind, and I'll say this politely with Oracle in the room, Oracle's prices tend to go up, not down. But what happened in May of 2018 is they announced some new pricing. So now the standard edition drops to $3.02 per hour for on the prepaid side. Data Lake goes to $3.02 prepaid to $4.54 on overage. The difference between prepaid and overage, it's kind of like cell phone minutes. You decide how many you definitely think you're going to use. Like I think we're going to use 1,000 CPU hours per month. So up to that, it's one price, but then when you go over, there's kind of a 50% surcharge. So for the most part, just pay attention to the prepaid hour section. So you'll notice standard is $3.02 for the overage, but if you know ahead of time how many hours you'll want, it actually went down from $10.08 to $2.02. So you go, well, that's not really fair because Essbase was at the standard tier a year ago and now it's not. But now you have full-blown Essbase at the Data Lake edition. That's $3.02. So you've gone from 1008 to 302 and now you have full use Essbase plus all the data flows. But wait, it gets better. What if I want the whole BI layer? I want that Siri for analytics. I want curated dashboards. I want BI Publisher. That goes down from $20.16 an hour to $4.03 an hour. But here's the really amazing thing. When Autonomous was launched, a lot of us were speculating because Oracle was doing more for you. They were doing the maintenance, the patches, the backups. The price would actually go up for OAC. We all crossed our fingers and said maybe it'll be close. Actually, for the most part, it went down. So standard on Autonomous OAC is now $1.34. Data Lake, which again is full-blown Essbase and Oracle's managing and doing a lot of the maintenance and support for you, has dropped to $2.69, and Enterprise has stayed the same for the Autonomous version. Truly, 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 absolutely amazing pricing. And I told you I could figure out how to get it to you for under $5.
You can get it cheaper yet.
Don't ruin my next slide. But, quick show of hands, how many of you currently have on-prem Essbase or on-prem OBIE in this room? That is everybody that doesn't work for Oracle. Cool. So this is the pricing for new customers. So when new customers get it, if you just showed up or if you turned off your existing maintenance and bought it, you would be paying this price, which by the way is really damn good. So if you want to add on, this is really amazing pricing. But Oracle said there's got to be a way that we can let people keep paying their on-prem maintenance, and we'll just charge them something minimal to add on the cloud. Now when I hear charge something minimal, I think it's going to be maybe half that price. Here is the pricing if you keep your on-prem maintenance. If you keep paying your on-prem Essbase and your on-prem OBIE maintenance, your cost to add OAC standard is 32 cents. Your cost to add OAC data lake, oh, that's also 32 cents. Your cost to add enterprise, oh, what the heck, 32 cents. That is absolutely amazing. You cannot buy gum that cheaply. I was actually talking to Gabby, and I said, there's no way Oracle makes money on this because you might have 200 users of on-prem, and now you want to try 2 CPUs of OAC in the cloud. My math says if you keep those 2 CPUs up and running for 40 hours, which is the rough length of a work week, that's $24 that it would cost to keep 2 CPUs up and running for 40 hours. And Gabby looked at me and he said, you're right. We're essentially charging for electricity. This is basically the cost to keep the OAC instance up and running. There's no additional profit. So from all of you, here's my advice to each one of you. Make sure you keep paying your on-prem maintenance. Make sure you keep up your Essbase maintenance, your OBIE maintenance. If you own Essbase, you qualify for OAC Data Lake. If you own OBIE or Essbase Plus, you get Data Lake. If you own OBIE or BI Foundation Suite, you qualify for Enterprise. For every 25 users of that on-prem instance, you get 1 CPU of the cloud. OCPU. Yeah, it's an Oracle Compute Unit. It's basically, it shows up as 2 CPUs because it's 1 CPU hyper-threaded. So it looks like you're getting 2 CPUs, but they call them Oracle Compute Units. So the key thing to remember, keep paying your on-prem maintenance. And now there is no reason not to try OAC. Every one of you should just rush back, go to the nice little cloud interface screen, and it looks like this. Oh, by the way, if you want to see this, what?
You get $300 free.
I'm totally going to get to that. Yeah. He really wants to spoil my thunder. So you're like, wow, I want to try it, but I don't know if I can afford $24 to keep that up and running for an entire week. Go to your boss, who could probably approve lunch, ask them for $24. Here's what you can do. You're like, Edward, this pricing is absolutely amazing. How well hidden is this bring your own licensing pricing? The answer is it's available all publicly. Go to cloud.oracle.com, click on OAC, click on the pricing tab. You will see everything I just told you. So it is not a well-hidden secret. It's just for some reason, I guess Oracle didn't want to put out a press release announcing they were giving this stuff away at 32 cents. So when you go to cloud.oracle.com, click on Oracle Analytics Cloud, click on pricing. You're going to see 3 buttons in the top right. Don't bother clicking on estimate. That's predominantly for the more complicated pricing things. You could click on buy, but the really fun button is the green one, which says try it for free. You get a $300 credit to do basically whatever you want to spend your universal credits on. So you go get your $300 try it for free, and then you say, I want to go do OAC Enterprise Edition. You can do 1,000 hours, 1,000 CPU hours for your $300. So it's going to expire after a bit. You can't go, well, God, I never have to pay anything again. But this will really get you started. So there's now no reason whatsoever, even if you don't have $24, to go out there and try Oracle Analytics Cloud. Explore, look at the new JET interface, see how it looks to go pull things up into it. So with that, Glenn now deserves 5 stars for giving you 32-cent OAC. So the big question is it ready for prime time? A year ago, it was a wonderful tool, particularly for new customers. Anybody new coming loved the new interface. They said it looks like a tablet. I can build everything from Excel. The biggest objection, frankly, came from a lot of us who raised our hands, people who had traditional Essbase background and said, I want more power. I want more flexibility. I want to do it more like I had. It has now reached that point. So it's up to you to decide if you think it's now hit the point where you really want to adopt, but there's at least no reason not to go out and try it. I will make you aware, this product has changed a ton in the last year, and it will keep changing even faster. Every time, when you hear soon, they're not talking 6 months. They generally are talking 15 to 45 days until they add something. So a lot of new features to make your administration easier, your use easier, your dimensions, your data loads. So now I really view the traditional EssSpace kind of more in that Yugo type world. Now we have a Maserati out there. So with that, I encourage all of you to do a couple things for continuing education. Number one, go to the hands-on lab today at 2:30. You don't even have to spend your $300 credit. Go to the hands-on lab, you get to play with all of this. I do have a training class coming up. I originally wasn't going to do classes on the cloud products because I thought people would want to watch videos. This is not on OAC, it's on PBCS, but I get so many requests for it. So we're doing one later. Just email JD's, he handles the registration for our training. You can sign up for it. If you don't want to pay money for a training class, I'm going to give you lots and lots of free videos. Glenn has some, I have some. We have almost 200 videos out there. Easiest URL on the planet to remember, epm.bi/videos. If you do want to learn all about OAC, now here's the deal. It's hard to keep a book updated with all the changes that they're making. But it will cover the vast majority of what you need to know about OAC. We're selling that book downstairs, so go down to Starship Interrel and tell them you want to buy an OAC book. A bunch of the authors are here. We'll be happy to deface it with our signature. I know that was a ton of information, which is why we gave you all the slides to show you all the things we didn't get to, which I think is going to answer a ton of your questions. So there's one final task for each one of you. Fill out your evals. And thank you, everyone, for being here for EssSpace 1 year later. It's now ready for prime time.